Would you like to rank #1 on your name to show a Google Knowledge Panel? How frustrating is it if people are Googling you and they don't see you, they can't find you? If you are an entrepreneur, local service business, author, you want to be able to rank #1 on your name even if other people have the same name. In today's episode of The Marketing Mechanic, we're going to cover what are the particular components that you need so that you can rank #1 on your name, and we're going to cover step by step what you need to do to be able to do this. I'm Dennis Yu, a former search engine engineer. I ran the internal analytics at Yahoo, and I've spent $1 billion on Google and Facebook ads. And today, we're going to show you exactly what you need, what the problems are and mistakes that we see other people making, and by the end of this episode, you'll have a clear path to be able to diagnose what is causing you to rank or not rank on your name in Google, as well as when people ask ChatGPT, who is the best person for so-and-so, so you can be recommended. Maybe you're a plumber in Easton, Pennsylvania, Sowski Order of Plumbing Pros, and you want to be able to show up when people are saying, who's the best plumber? All of these things are based upon the same concepts that we've taught in the first 4 episodes of The Marketing Mechanic. Episode 1, we covered entities. Episode 2, we covered how those entities fit into what we call the Geo-Vertical grid, so that you're tied in with other folks that also do plumbing, or other folks that are also basketball athletes, other folks that also do the same thing, as well as in the city that you do them. And in episode 3, we talked about the content strategy on how you create that kind of content and link it together. Episode 4, we talked about MAA, which is how do you optimize looking at your data to figure out what's working and what isn't working, so you can take intelligent action along the way. So let's start with personal brand. When someone types in your name into Google, what will typically happen in the search results is at the very top, you'll get a LinkedIn box as the first result, because LinkedIn was created to rank #1 on everyone's name. And if LinkedIn is owning the #1 spot, then that's rented property. That's not you. And then what we often see with folks who are a little bit younger is we'll see maybe their Instagram or their Facebook or their Twitter, or maybe you're on YouTube, so you have these other links which then again are not yours. You don't own those properties. You can be on social media, you can get a ton of views, but you need to have owned properties that are yours. And then over here, you might have your company. So this is where people mess it up. So company.com/about is where people usually are, because you think, well, I'm Nick Dosa and I'm the founder and CEO of Vegas Auto Gallery. So if you go to vegasautogallery.com/about, that's often the biographical information about who you are. And it's not to say you shouldn't put some of that information there, but like we talked about in episode 1 of The Marketing Mechanic, that's not the same entity. Your business is an entity, and so the about of your business should be about the business, why the business got started, even if the business is just you for right now. The stories kind of behind the business and how you're different and things that you believe in about the business, which can include you as the founder. But if the about is your bio on the company, that's creating all kinds of confusion that then prevent you from being able to get a knowledge panel, which is what we'll see over here on this side. If you Google my name, that's a knowledge panel. We've gotten knowledge panels and helped hundreds of people be able to get this and be able to rank on their name, rank in AI. And I want you to see exactly how it's done so that you don't fall for all these other vendors that are charging a stupid amount of money for stuff that they can't do. Not because they're not good, but because they literally, technically cannot do it because it requires structuring your information the right way. So I want you to understand what those components are. And then maybe there's other things that pop up, like you're on other people's podcasts. Maybe you have a podcast, and so this might be Spotify or whatever it might be. And maybe you have an article, maybe that you wrote on someone else's site. Maybe you have some speaking. Maybe you've been covered in the news, which then if they link to you or mention you, this is under your name. But what typically happens is that you get this issue of what's called the 10 blue links. And this is even in a good situation where this is all your name. What will typically happen is you'll have a mix of all these things down here that will be other people with the same name. And often there's going to be like an athlete or a former mathematician or some historical figure or a porn star or whoever that also has the same name. And then when we look through and scroll past the first 10 results, maybe, this one is you, these other ones are not you, this one is you. And so there's a mix of these different results. And I think a lot of people are used to the idea that if other people have the same name, Elias Bartu, then, how do I compete against all those other people? So what we want to do is move to when people Google you or they ask ChatGPT, and then we get a knowledge panel. And what you see with mine is a bunch of colored boxes here at the top. So these are boxes that have pictures of who you are, maybe a little thing about a book you have, maybe your bio, and this of course goes on, as you see with mine. And you can choose what the different pictures are. You can choose what some of the biographical details are that have to be factually true, because search engines are all about what the facts are. And maybe this is like a book that you have, maybe this is the company that you own, maybe, there's all this other information that should be this authoritative bio on who you are, and then it has your name at the top, which is different than this kind of 10 blue links. And then over here, it'll have a box with information like where you're born, and then this URL is the canonical, which is the one authoritative source, the truth of who you are. And then hopefully this is not pulled from your LinkedIn or pulled from your Google Books or Wikipedia. If you have a Wikipedia, great. There's a love-hate thing with Wikipedia, right? And then down here, it'll have your social channels, your Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever it might be. And so what you need to understand is that for your personal brand, it might be, you might own this and this and this, but that doesn't translate into the necessary ingredients you need for your personal brand site. For your knowledge panel and personal brand site, okay? So look, this is called a knowledge panel. This upside down L. When you have a knowledge panel, then everything else that's part of this knowledge panel, which is under what is called a KGMID. Hey, by the way, stay with me. If this is technical and whatnot, just stay with me, because you're going to see how this all fits together. This is going to be worth your time. Under this KGMID, which is the entity object for your name, you're Dylan Haugen. Here's all the information associated with this particular ID, which maps back to these particular components. Well, that means that all the other information that is about you that will then show up in these regular kind of search results, which include, people also ask, if you look at mine here, I'll show you. Mine, people are asking, what is the dollar a day strategy, and what does Dennis do, and here, I'll show you, okay? So you have these colored boxes that show who you are, other pictures and whatnot. Factual information. See these colored boxes? Mine happen to be light blue. Sometimes it's orange or pink or purple. You can't change those colors, unfortunately. Maybe someday you will. And you can see that these boxes are different than the regular search results. This is a knowledge panel. And then here's some facts. Here's the latest tweets and social media I have. This is what yours should show. Then finally LinkedIn, your personal brand site, which is the core of what we're talking about here today, and all these other things. Here's trivia about Dennis, videos about Dennis, and then I mentioned the LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, all that kind of stuff is here. You see that? And then it goes on for miles and miles and miles and miles on all this stuff. And people also, I forgot to mention this, people are also looking at folks in digital marketing, Mari Smith, Ryan Dice, Rand Fishkin, Neil Patel, these other people. People want to know, what's my net worth? The Beast. Some people have been calling me the Beast, so now this is showing up here because I've been, figure an old man like me can do the dunks or lift a whole bunch of weight. And so you'll see, I'm featured on other people's sites. I spent 17 days with Dennis Yu, so that's Danny Lee Brandt. You want to be associated with these other people. Whoever you want to be associated with, that'll start to show up in your knowledge graph, and there's ways to control that. We'll talk about that. And you can see people want to know about LinkedIn and my net worth. And so this goes on and on. I can go to more search results, and this goes on for miles and miles and miles, right? You can see that more of these different kinds of components. Any kind of training, any kind of organizations you're associated with. This doesn't mean you have to be famous. A lot of people think, well, Dennis is saying you got to be famous, you have to travel, you have to do these other things. You don't need to have that. But we're teaching by example. This is what a knowledge panel is, and this is what it means to rank number 1 on your name. By the way, ranking number 1 on your name doesn't mean that you have to have a knowledge panel. It depends on the level of competition. but there are some structural components that I want you to be able to see, and how you can go from here to here. So let's start off with what some of these common mistakes and missing components are. First off, we talked about how most of the time the stuff about you, you've put on your company about page. That creates all kinds of confusion in the knowledge graph because those are different entities. You and the products that you have and your company and the city that you're in, like those are all different things in the knowledge graph that have different IDs associated with them. So what you really need to have is over here, your personal brand site. And there's lots of ways that you could create this. I mean, you could go to Wix and GoDaddy. You could pay someone on Fiverr, $500, several $1,000s to build a personal brand site. And you could choose between all the different templates and how you want it to look and whatnot, and design it. Do I want a 3-column format? Do I want to put it on WordPress? Do I want to use Elementor? Do I want to use, so there's all these technical things related to the personal brand site. But we think that it should live on WordPress just because it's easy, it's fast, it's already designed to be able to connect these things together to get a knowledge panel. And what you want to do is, first off, the home page of your personal brand site should be the most authoritative set of information about you. And so most people, for their personal brand site, they have this beautiful picture of them, or maybe there's a carousel. They say, so-and-so is an incredible person and all this other sorts of information about them. Maybe there's a button to be able to buy your services, to be able to, you know, go to your YouTube, whatever it is. And that's great. You can have all that. But what's missing is you want to have all, remember what we're trying to do is impact what is this URL here. Because if it's for you as a person, what is the one URL that's the most authoritative? It should be this personal brand site. So this should be up here at the very top and the regular search results like you see for mine. Notice when we were looking at my knowledge panel, the personal brand site was down here because all of the items that encompass who am I are part of this knowledge panel. This knowledge panel is anchored by this one ID. And this one is DennisU.com. Not Wikipedia, not LinkedIn, not these other ones. The most authoritative URL for you is your entity home. And the entity home should be on the home page of your personal brand site. So if we come here and apologize for using lots of different colors and whatnot, but if we do some research on who you are, and let's just say that it's over here, and we have this big filing cabinet. Am I out of view? Can you see me? Yes, you can. We have this big filing cabinet of all the things that are, let's just say it's Nick Dosa, because he's my favorite person to talk about right now. And I go to ChatGPT, or I go to Grok 4 Heavy, and I say, give me everything that you know about Nick Dosa. He's the founder of Vegas Auto Gallery. He also knows all these different celebs. He's got all these various supercars. He is hanging out with my buddy Brad Lee and has done these podcasts. And there's other factual information about him, where he was born, how he got the business started, things related to Las Vegas, how he and I were hanging out and doing silly things with Brad Lee. There's all this information. So if we inventory this information, that inventory can feed everything on the personal brand site on the home page. The factual information about Nick Dosa on the homepage, not everything, but the most important critical biographical facts on the homepage, right? Some of this will come in here, and then some of this information, if we structured this information in the right way, that will then populate and drive all the things that show up in these search results. You see what's going on here? There's an underlying inventory of everything about who you are. And that also ties to another source of information. Danny, don't get mad at me. I'm using multiple markers, okay? I love colors. So there's this underlying information where there's your photos off of your iPhone. So it could be iCloud, It could be your Google Photos. It could be your, Eventbrite, wedding photos, reviews that people have left for you. There's going to be a lot of Zoom recordings, right? There's lots of raw information which may or may not be available to Google or ChatGPT to be able to see. A lot of it, one of the biggest ones, is actually social media. So you would think social media is public, and it kind of is, because other people who have an account on the social networks can technically see this stuff. But in a walled garden, like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, that information is driven by the feed, and unless you're a registered user on that platform, you can't see this information. So a lot of this stuff is only partially visible. So the items that are showing up here are going to be the publicly visible profile IDs, but not the content necessarily, which seems kind of weird, right? So being able to see the social media data and other things that are partially visible to you or not, like these Zoom recordings or things on my phone, a lot of that's not visible to anybody, right? But if we take that, push it up through this layer, which is organizing who you are around what you want to be known for. You're a plumber in Easton, Pennsylvania, and then it's pushed, this is like a higher level of concentration organization. Then it's pushed to that personal brand site, and we organize this personal brand site in a certain way. That shows clear signal on who you are. You are telling Google, this is who I am. I'm not trying to rank number one or trying to like trick Google because, I'm an HVAC guy in Columbus, Ohio, Rob of Fast Response Heating and Air, plug to Rob. It's not that I'm trying to trick the engine and push myself above all these other people. What I'm trying to do is say with clarity, yes, I am Nick Dosa. Yes, here's all this factual information. Yes, I can trace it back to these different sources. It's almost like, if you were giving an investigator whatever proof, like for the court, like proving to the court that, here's where I actually was on this particular date, and I was with these people, and I was doing these different things, then that can be organized and put the facts, the main stuff around who you are and what you want to be known for, into the homepage of the personal brand site. But then the question is, well, what's going on with other pages? Like maybe there's the About page. This is also a big mistake people make. They take this information and they stick it on and it's also done very poorly because it's like some third party that's just grabbing this information or making up some stuff using ChatGPT about who you are. And so they don't know what should be on the homepage of the site versus what should be on the About. Here's the answer. The About is telling your stories. It's telling things about your mission and your values, which are told through these stories to kind of understand why you do the things that you do. And here, these are the facts. This is biographical, factual, provable, not opinions like, Elias Bartu is the best football player in high school in Las Vegas. Well, that's an opinion. That's not factually proven. There could be facts that support that, right? So factually true things about who, where, what, when, why, that kind of stuff. And the About is when you go into the detail of those different stories. So that's how you distinguish between the two. But often your stuff is here or it's here. This is a thin kind of brochure-like thing with a few pictures. Maybe like with Nick, A, he doesn't even have a personal brand site. And then B, when you look at the About on the company, it says, Nick Dosa is an exotic car owner who has this gallery with $100 million of exotic cars, and he rents the most premium cars and sells the most premium cars with all these people that are well known. And it reads like a advertisement, right? Not factual information. This is written like a sales page, and it has hardly any factual information. And plus, there's only a paragraph of stuff about him. So to disambiguate, to be able to show what is a company versus what is the person, personal brand site homepage, factual information, the About can then link to all these other components. This stuff here can link to everything else, which we talked about in episode 1, that shows that this is true. So this is really another way of saying, yes, this is who I am and what I do and who I'm associated with and milestones in my career and where I have spoken and where I've been on a podcast and where I've been covered in the news, linking to those particular items to be able to say, like, yes, not only was I on CNN, but here, and I'm not saying you have to be major media, but here is proof, and I'm linking to those other items. Google can see that. Google comes to the site. Google follows those links and finds that that's true. I can't tell you how many people, we look at their site, and then there's a section here which says, as seen on Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur. So people are paying to be on Forbes Council. People are paying for press releases. That doesn't count, because Google can see it doesn't tie back to the real factual information. So we're on this home page of the personal brand site. We are basically demonstrating that these things are true. Okay? And then you implement schema, then you implement tags and categories as part of WordPress, which is where the blogs come. You know, so you have all these blog posts that then are linked to and from the about, both ways. That goes into the topic wheel, which is what we covered in episodes 2 and 3. So to rank number 1 on your name, you need a personal brand website that's organized in this way. You need to have tons of proof that get pushed up into here. And this is based on EEAT. Experience, the main thing. Expertise, authority, trust. Not ChatGPT written stuff on so-and-so's a great entrepreneur and Jeremy Newman's in San Antonio and does, you know, restoration. Yeah, he does, but where's the proof of that? Where's the pictures and videos and images, the reviews on Google showing that he runs a company that does that, right? All this has to tie back. If this is true, then these results will start to gradually become better and better, because Google will start to trust this. They don't just immediately trust it. When you put something out there, Google comes in, they take a look at this stuff and they say, huh, you know what? This stuff on the about, where Dennis was on Matthew Janusek's podcast, the Escape Your Limits podcast. He owns Escape Fitness. Escape Your Limits is his podcast. Separate entity, right? Matthew Janusek's a person, Escape Fitness is a company, Escape Your Limits is a podcast, I'm a person, he has these products. Those are all separate objects, separate entities, right? So when this is chock full of great information, this starts to get pushed into the search results. And so we think of these as citations. So every one of these facts that comes up here, all this raw information can be organized by category, like the topic that's about based on the topic wheel. That gets pushed up into the personal brand website and the company website, which we'll talk about in another episode, but right now we're talking about ranking on your name. And then as this becomes more authoritative and more of this information, because of course the personal brand site is linked to everything else that you have, this starts to influence these search results, because Google starts to realize, you know what? The most powerful URL, the one URL for your name, the entity home. The entity home is what is the home page of your name? What is the main URL? It's the entity home. It's this site. It's yourname.com. If someone else has that, your name, Elias-bar2.com or whatever it is, right? It doesn't have to be the exact name anymore. Someone else may already own that, right? So as this starts to get stronger and stronger, what we're going to see is for your KGMID, the confidence score starts to increase. And the confidence score is the score that Google assigns this entity object. If I do a search on your name, let's say it's Nick Dosa, a Vegas auto gallery. And he's got the auto gallery in Vegas. I'm sure there's an LA auto gallery, there's a Miami auto gallery, but he's only doing it in Vegas as far as I know. Then this information, let's say this is Nick Dosa, and I'm searching Nick Dosa, and there's one main Nick Dosa with the KGM ID of ABC123, and there's another KGM ID, and let's say there's many of them. Let's say there's, sometimes there's like 32 of them, right? Google will return 32 as the max. So if it says, if you use our tool and look yourself up, and it says there's 32, that probably means there's a lot more than that, because they only show up to 32. So let's say this is the actual one that we want for this Nick Dosa, and there's another Nick Dosa, and there's another Nick Dosa, and we've increased the confidence score by doing this. Let's say the confidence score is now up at a 58, and then this is a 24, and this is a 12, and there's other ones, this guy's a 5, and there's a 2, and there's a 1, right? There's a lot of them. If we have the number 1 Nick Dosa among all the other Nick Dosas, then we're more likely, well, A, the confidence score is increasing. When our confidence score is above all the other confidence scores here, because we've repurposed these things to create citations that point back to this object, more links into this object, more confidence. That's why it's called a confidence score. More confidence that this is Nick Dosa. Then eventually, you're going to start out with the partial knowledge panel. Partial knowledge panel is just this, right? Then you start to get this whole thing, and that's a full knowledge panel. And some people say, well, what score do I need to get to? What's the confidence score I need to get to trigger a full knowledge panel? There is no one number. I've seen a full knowledge panel even with people who have a 50. And I've seen other people where they've gotten up to 400 plus, which is where a celebrity is, and they still don't have a full knowledge panel. What we're looking at is the relative competition here, which is how many other people have that same name, what's the confidence score associated with these other related objects, and then what is the search, what is the query volume that we're seeing? So if there are, let's say Brady Sticker, I think, I don't remember the exact number, but let's say, let's go back to the data, which we'll say is green. Let's say that for Brady Sticker, let's see where we're going to put this, over here. So let's say there's 100 queries per month for Brady Sticker. And the SEO tools will tell you that. I use Ahrefs. You can use the starter plan, which is $29 a month. You can use SEMrush. Google will even tell you via Google Trends and Google Ads, they have a tool that will estimate how many people are searching on that name. But let's say if there's 100 queries a month for Brady Sticker, maybe it's like 200. I forgot the exact, it's been going up ever since we've been working on his stuff. He's made a video about how that's helped him. Question is, how many of them do we have? And I think we're now probably 60 of the 100. So if we are the majority of the queries on that name, and we are clearly disambiguating from the other Brady Stickers, and we have all these elements of trust, then Google's going to say, okay, you deserve to have a full knowledge panel. Now, the funny thing is that if you look at Dennis Yu, for example, there's 500 people a month that are typing Dennis Yu into Google. And there's a lot of Dennis Yus. I mean, with Chinese names, two-letter names, there's a lot of them, right? But I have more than half. I'm not saying it has to be half or more, but somewhere if you have more, if you by far are, it's your information, you're the Nick Dosa among the other Nick Dosas, then Google's going to say, well, okay, I know who they are. There's more volume for this, and I'm going to show this. Now, how do you then, but if not that many people are searching on you, how do you increase that? Well, the more podcasts, the more stories. I mean, we were Googling Nick Dosa earlier, and we saw that he had this celebrity thing with Sylvester Stallone. They were doing this giveaway. He was with Jimmy Kimmel. I'm not saying it has to be celebrities, right? But if there's more information about you and it's repurposed and shared, that increases your query share. Also, if we take any of the best content about you and we run $1-a-day ads on it, maybe a YouTube video from a few years ago, like Nick Dosa was giving a tour of his gallery, or we were with our friends Andre of Ardmore Windows and Doors, and we're showing, here's a guy's house, we're replacing the windows. And not only did we repurpose it, but we boosted that. There's going to be more people that are searching for Ardmore, or Andre who owns Ardmore. Or we can run ads to get more queries, to more views on our content, which then disrupts this share. So it's kind of neat how in a certain way using ads can actually increase our SEO. Isn't that neat? Now I'm going to show another piece here. This is something that's easy to do, but almost no one seems to realize this is the case. So we know that often it's going to be rented property that ranks #1 on someone's name. And maybe they have a personal brand website that shows up here, if they even know that it shouldn't be the company about page, right? Okay, well, if we know that these guys are already winning, your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your YouTube, if you're a young adult, sure, it's your TikTok and your Instagram. What we do is we come in here and we claim all of these entity objects. So we make sure that your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, most people don't realize you can do this. If these properties that are your profiles on each of these also point to your personal brand site. Because most people, what do? They send it to their Linktree. What a waste. Why would you push all the juice and authority to Linktree? Oh, because it shows like 5 or 6 places and it shows my whatever, okay? No, point all of these, the main URL for each of these social properties back, because that's telling Judge Google, not only is this the main URL for me, but all these other URLs reinforce that this should be the #1 URL. So when you come in, when it's time to claim your knowledge panel, which is a process that we describe, we even help you do it, then you're going to come in and say, to get the knowledge panel, come down here, let's call this the claim process. Most people, when they come in and claim it, if they even have a knowledge panel and they can find it and know how to get that to even be able to claim it, you have to be on the URL for the knowledge panel, which means it has to exist. But let's say you're able to do all this, you have a knowledge panel, it exists, but it doesn't show up when people search your name, so you have to claim it and make it stronger. You have to answer the question, why do you want this? And there's a certain way to answer that question, which is covered in our article, basically showing all the facts, not just like, oh, I want this knowledge panel. That's how you get rejected, right? And then you have to show these other entities. You have to upload screenshots. There's other stuff you got to show as part of the claim process. Well, if these items that are already ranking on that search for Nick Dosa, for your name, if these other items are linking to this site, right, then you're way more likely to be accepted when you make the claim. Because if this is what Google already thinks is most authoritative for your name, and you've demonstrated you own all of these, the bio on each of these reflects this information. It's consistent. Not just like, oh, I hang out with celebrities here. And down here, oh, I own Vegas Auto Gallery, or other pieces. If this is consistent back to a common topic wheel, this is the topic wheel, right? You're saying the same thing, so it's not like a different thing, but it's clear on what you do and who you are and what you've done, then all of this is consistent. And if there's any kind of confusion along the way, it's weird. Like you would think, oh, it's Google, they're so smart, they can figure it out. Like I saw something, what was it, yesterday, where a guy it said that he had 70,000 customers on his website, but then in a podcast, he said he had 80,000. And when you look at the company's page, it says like, oh, we've served 85,000 customers. Okay, well, which one is it? Like okay, well, that was like 3 years ago. Well, sometimes you got to come back to this content and update it, because Google literally looks at it and says, well, here it says he's the CEO of this company, but then he ran this other company 5 years ago. And then that still shows up as the main thing on his LinkedIn, because he didn't update his LinkedIn, because a lot of you guys, you haven't updated that, right? So it's literally as simple as structuring this information, making sure that this information is distributed across all of the rented properties instead of just the ones that you own. And then you can come in and claim it. You can continue to enhance the confidence score that's tied to this. And then when you have a full knowledge panel and it's claimed, you can keep increasing that, because you would then link from, let's say this is the company. This is his Vegas Auto Gallery. Well, Vegas Auto Gallery can then link to him, because we can still do the About section, and there's a whole list of team members, and the one for Nick Dosa can still link to the Nick Dosa. Let's say your company, you're a $10 million HVAC company. Well, you're going to have all these other people, right? And build out personal brand websites for each of them, organize their information. Now you've got a bunch of personal brand websites. Not because you're trying to make them a celebrity, but you're trying to show that you as a company are connected to these other people, to your top clients, to people in the industry. Maybe you met Tommy Mello at the Home Service Freedom event and you're associated with him. Maybe you made a 1-minute video. Maybe you repurposed that content to multiple channels. Now you've demonstrated as part of the whole ecosystem, which we talked about in episode 1 of the marketing mechanic, that you are who you say you are. Because this entity, Nick Dosa, for example, is strong, has a good confidence score against it. But then, like you see with mine, remember when we looked at mine, it said, oh, Well, Dennis Yu's a entrepreneur that helps home service businesses and teaches young adults and has an AI apprentice program and all this. And then it said down here, people also looked at these other people in digital marketing and in home services. Guess what? When people come in and they search Tommy Mello, let's say this is Tommy Mello's thing, it'll say, oh, well, you should also look at Dennis Yu. People come in and they look at, you know, Danny Liebrandt, right? They come in on Danny Liebrandt's knowledge panel and they see Danny Liebrandt is the host of the Local Secrets SEO podcast and he's doing this stuff in pest control. And also, Dennis Yu is associated with him. So all of these are connected together. So if you're the owner of a company, which I don't have here because this is about the personal brand, and you elevate your people, the stronger they are, the more that passes juice over into your company, right? Not just you as the founder. This is for other people in the industry. This is for your customers. This is for your team members. This is for people that are in your geo-vertical grid, meaning people in your industry, so other plumbers, other roofers, other landscapers like Anthony Hilb. The more Anthony does in his community in Indiana, and the more he's helping other landscapers, as long as they're not in the same city that he's operating in, the more it helps his knowledge panel, the more it helps them, these other people, be able to rank. More builds power, because as this gets more powerful, that helps out all the other companies, all the other products, all the services that he uses. And I think Anthony Hilb, for example, knows just kind of intuitively that when he is elevating other people that he respects, like Perry Marshall, or me, or Frank Kern, or John McGee, or other people, then that's naturally lifting them up, but it's helping his ranking too. It's helping build his trust in the community. It's helping so that when people type in, who's the best person to cut down my tree in Bloomington, Indiana? Well, it should be Anthony Hilb of Anthony's Lawn Care and Landscaping, right? And this is really about reputation being structured in the right way. There's nothing that should be super technical, like, okay, there's stuff with KGMIDs, there's stuff in how we build these personal brand websites. If you want to learn more, we have a guide that shows exactly how you build these personal brand websites based on hundreds of websites that we have built. Full disclosure, I'm an engineer, so I like to build software. And if you want to follow me as an engineer, I'm giving away all the code, all the techniques, it's just stuff like this. Like, I can't believe, other people that are in digital marketing say, can't believe Dennis is giving away all the secrets on how he's able, like, oh, the way he implements Schema, and the way we separate out the about page from the home page, and the way we run ads to be able to increase our share of queries, or he's giving away all the secrets on how this thing works. Yes, because I want you to understand it, because I know that if you're a successful entrepreneur and you're doing more than several $1 million a year as a services business, as a roofer, as a landscaper, as a dentist or whatnot, you don't want to learn all this, but you want to at least know that this is legitimately how to do it, right? So if we're giving you all the stuff on how to do it, including all the SOPs that are hundreds of pages long, some of you guys are going to go ahead and do it and knock yourself out because we want you to do that. That's for free. If your time is free, great, right? You're an 18-year-old kid and you want to start a company selling services to build websites that rank, go for it, right? Like, I don't consider you a competitor. If anything, I want to work with you because then we can link together based on what this we talked about here. But if you're a successful entrepreneur, you're a plumber in San Diego, then you want to be able to rank because your name is so-and-so plumbing, or you're a personal injury attorney, and it's your name. Like, who's the guy that we saw? Nakavi, right? His ads are everywhere. So he wants to rank on his name because his face is on the billboard. Well, of course he wants to build his personal brand because it ties to the company that he has. But you probably don't want to do this. Or maybe you push it off to your agency. Hey, agency people, go understand this. Or you take the transcript of this video, good luck, push it into ChatGPT and say, go ahead and explain this, like what's real, what's not. Audit my company and figure out which of these things I'm doing and not doing, but you can, right? But the thing is, I drew this out as video. So if you have just the text, AI can't figure it out. You need to actually watch the video. The AI is not ready to watch the video. It's partly why I do these whiteboards, because the AI is not ready to digest it yet. And when it is, then the AI, we're already multiple steps ahead by that point, right? That's why we openly share exactly how we do these things. So if you're all the way at the end of this video, and that means you clearly found this to be interesting and valuable. That means you are frustrated perhaps that you're not ranking on your name. We have a platform that we've created. You can click on the link below, should be mentioned in the descriptions, for a low, low price, less than the price of a Starbucks per week. Our system will build all of this. We have the software and tools and AI components integrated. All you've got to be able to do is give us access to these components and meet certain criteria. If you have the necessary ingredients, our system will process all of this stuff for you to help you rank #1 on Google. And thus it's not trickery. It's that you actually have the raw ingredients, that we run through this whole process. You actually log into these different socials and connect everything together the right way. You make sure that these bios, you make sure all of these different components are there. We give you a checklist, we audit that kind of stuff. We're making the software better and better every day. Our software is like a personal coach. It's not like, oh, it's another tool I gotta learn. No, our tools say, okay, give us access to these components. We will build these items. We will tell you which specific things that you need to do. You can assign it to a VA. Maybe you have a marketing assistant. Great. Have them do this, and you can benefit. You can enjoy the results without having to understand all the technical details. That's the beauty of an implementation service that we're providing. How are we able to do this for $30 a month or whatever the current price is? It's because we're not putting in training and consulting. We're not meeting with you and, it's not like we don't want to meet with people. That's consulting. That's another thing, right? But the idea of implementation through a productized service is let's deliver the service. If they can give us the ingredients and our system says, okay, you did this right, but you didn't do that, or we need this, or here's your best content that we found, and then you give us access to come in and make these changes, or your person makes these changes, you can rank #1 on your name. You can rank #1 on your company's name. Isn't that awesome, right? And as we do this all together, and we are honoring other people in our network, other people in our city, other people in our profession, then we're showing Judge Google who we are, because all of these guys are connected as part of this overall knowledge graph. Because we think about, this is a topic wheel, this could be the topic of landscaping. This could be the topic of using AI to be able to train up digital marketers, right? And we're connecting with other people that do these things. Maybe this is your topic wheel over here. And we're connected together because we're in Vegas, or because we share, we care about landscaping. Like whatever the connection is with other people, this is the beauty of all of us being together in this network. And by being in this ecosystem, we're creating intelligent links between all of us, which helps reinforce us, creates more query volume on the things that we care about. So I hope you found this to be a helpful episode of The Marketing Mechanic. I'm Dennis Yu, and if you found that this is valuable, I would love to know, what do you think? What kind of comments do you have? Give this channel a subscribe. I know the majority of you are watching this, and maybe only 20% of you are subscribing. I'm happy to make more episodes on topics that you care about. Let me know, and every week, every Thursday at 11 Eastern, we drop a new episode, and my hope is that through these sessions, you're going to learn that digital marketing is not technical, it's really strategy. As AI gets better and better, it's more about understanding these raw, real ingredients. The AI is going to do all of this. We know this is coming. It's going to be about what are you doing things that the AI can't do, and those people that do have a multiplying advantage. Technology always makes the rich richer. And so your personal brand is arguably the one thing that the AI can't copy. AI can build other company websites. AI can generate videos that do whatever it is. But the way we stay ahead is because of our relationships, the one thing that the AI can't do. And it starts with the trust in your name. There you have it. Let me know. What do you think?